All right, thank you guys for making it to this roundtable of this Atlas on the Rock episode.
Thanks for having us.
We have Chris Cook with us, Margo Sakova, and
Thanks.
Dan Hadeka.
Hi.
I want to start by asking a very important question. How alien is paddle actually to you? Because we are in a paddle club and it's very popular in Spain, but I don't know in your country of residence.
Is it different from pickleball? I'm very confused.
I don't even know what pickleball is.
Okay. Well, no, I'm very confused. I'm blind in one eye, so anything that requires depth perception is not my sport.
Understood. Margo?
So we're very excited about the paddle. I used to play tennis when I was younger, so we'll see. We'll see about that. Waiting for the masterclass. And you, Dan?
I'm up for giving sport a try, but it's been a very long time since I've moved like that.
Okay. We can have a good team. Is it a team sport or do we play against each
It's
other?
pairs, so 2 against 2.
2 against 2.
We can
Okay.
we can play a couple of points. I can show you the rules.
If someone's too good, I can partner with them and be their handicap. So.
I think I know the rules, so you can partner with me.
Okay, good.
All right, excellent. So it's day 2 of Team 25 Europe. There's been a lot of announcements already in the keynotes. What's your favorite announcement so far?
The death of the Atlassian marketplace is exciting, definitely. Yeah, like that's definitely had a lot of people in group therapy. So yeah. Did you guys miss that announcement? No? It seemed pretty clear from maybe the subtext of the keynote. The idea is, the belief is that Forge will replace the need for vendors and apps. We'll see whether that's true, but yeah, I thought I'd start controversial off the bat. Dan, you can disagree with me.
If you're suggesting that that was the starting pistol for the future, you're right. And anyone who's been paying attention, right? DC being announced as dying and the Ascent. If anyone's surprised, I'm surprised. They're surprised because they've telegraphed this, and they've been telegraphing that features are not the future, but problems are. And I'm actually eager to see what it looks like for Erase people to start finding the actual problems in these companies, not just, can I sell you some checklists, please?
So, well, I would say that we finally got a little bit of clarity around the isolated cloud, because this is what our customers talk a lot about, and they say that, hey, number one reason for us to move is the security. So now we're hearing that it should be at the beginning of the 2026. So I think this is a good thing, because we are getting approached all the time by customers who are challenged with it. So I think that is the best news I heard from my end. And Rovo is all around, within the keynotes, within the expo, within the master classes, and this is really great. I got a lot of demand on the Rovo AI OKR brain dates, and people coming and asking how to use it, and there was workshops full. So I think it's good that customers are getting used to it, and I think Atlassian would get better adoption of their own products, but making people learn how to use it within the Rovo chat and AI. So I see it's actually a lot of good stuff happening, not only the questionable stuff.
So Margo, you mentioned Rovo, and that's front and center in Atlassian's proposal. And there's been many announcements around Rovo things, new things coming into the platform. What's your main takeaway from this approach now?
Well, I'm very skeptical of a lot of the hype and noise that are happening in the AI space. I think Atlassian, with all the good data that goes into Confluence and Jira, are well positioned to actually produce tangible, actionable AI that works for people. So I think there's a lot of benefits to be had from things like Atlassian Intelligence, connecting data sources, summarizing stuff quickly if you don't want to have to read. If you see 20 pages of Confluence, you're like, okay, just could I have the executive summary of this, please? Thanks. So there's huge potential there, very exciting. Some people say Rovo isn't as good at coding as Claude, but I don't think it's meant to be. It's Atlassian specific, and that's where its focus is. So yeah, some exciting, tangible announcements. I'd see AI being actually used and helpful, and not just forced on an unwilling public like it is on some other platforms.
Okay. So I love working with agents. It's my little playground. I'm not a technical person. I cannot create something, I cannot write code and that sort of stuff. But playing within the instructions and agents and the output I'm getting, this is really interesting. I'm not, what is a little bit confusing, I'm not getting, the same output all the time. I'm asking the same, I'm feeding the same information, I'm using the same knowledge, but sometimes the answers are incomplete, but I think they're getting there, and I see some improvements here. So very, very excited on what is coming next.
On day one, the keynotes from Mo was really interesting. He talked about happiness, and one of the things he talked was connected to happiness is actually expectation and the lack of failed expectation. I think the expectation, to your point about hype, has been said that Rovo's your teammate, right? I'd fire that teammate if it was an actual person. But I think we all would, and not because it's not really awesome a lot of the time, but because it's unpredictably terrible and gives you incomplete data, and in the worst time, it will give you something that looks right, but isn't. So we saw, right, the onboarding is like tasks, and it'll go, hey, Rovo, can you do me an onboarding sheet? You said Confluence has got some good data in. What happens if I hadn't to put my HR handbook into Confluence? Do you think it would have said, no, I'm not going to do that? Or do you think it would have gone, this'll do? And how close do you think that's going to be to actually? So I think that this is very much an intent. And I think this is going to, again, be another starting pistol for companies to go, hey, I want that. I want to be able to do that. So let's go off and give it a try. And that feedback of where it's failing is going to be really, really helpful to these AI model builders. And I think that the challenge to the underlying models and the underlying producers is to make this better. And it is getting better. Look at what we were talking about being possible just 2 years ago. I wouldn't bet against it being awesome, and even more so in 2 more.
Right before the event, a couple of weeks ago, Atlassian announced 2 different acquisitions. One of them is the Browser Company of New York. It's a very hipster name to my taste, but it's interesting. And DX also. I think in the internet there was a little bit of, it went a bit viral, what these acquisitions were unexpected. Do you think that they make sense in the narrative of Atlassian, and how do you see them adding value to the platform in the future?
It was surprised a lot of people who have been with Atlassian for a long time and are coming from its developer past. But for me, as Atlassian moves more into just an entire platform for more business teams, having a browser that's purpose built and fits in towards it, especially as all their offerings are now going to be cloud-based, it makes total sense to make this complete captured infrastructure. Google Chrome and Edge, which I occasionally use to install Google Chrome, probably not fit for purpose. I like the idea of having a browser for play and a browser for work. So from that perspective, I'm excited to see what's happening. I don't have a strong opinion on it, and how much it cost. Was it worth it? We will see. But I get it for the idea. If you're moving everyone to cloud, having a nice browser experience that ties in and is a simple, connected, functional thing just seems to make complete sense to me.
So yeah, I think it will grow the adoption of the Atlassian products overall, and make people stick more with them, because they're trying to do it right now within Rovo. Maybe you've seen this when Rovo is trying to say, hey, would you like me to become your search agent instead of Google? Would you let me, please? So I think this is really interesting, and I think a lot of people will use it. Maybe instead, a lot of people have now inside Chrome different accounts. So this is my browser for the work, this is my browser for personal, and if they can, if they make it the default browser for business, for work happening, that can bring them even more traction, and for the existing products as well. People are getting into browser, they're getting interacted with the other of the Atlassian products more closely, and all the ecosystem is growing out of it. Do you see it the same way, or any?
I've heard 2 things, and we're all part of different communities that heard the news and I found there was an overwhelming lack of imagination about why this makes sense and what we could do with these. And there was a third acquisition in the same week. All of these things happened in 10 days of cycle, getting customer feedback. But we've already heard very rapidly from DX being acquired, so this is going to be the foundational unit of the software collection. And this means that you're not leading in software anymore with your board on the wall. You're leading with AI, understanding the developer experience and your DORA metrics and how you're efficient and effective and where your work is going in software. Interestingly, people were all up in arms about Arc, and I don't think the browser company acquisition was anything to do with Arc. It was all about Dia. It was about capturing the window into work. Not only is this encouraging you to use Rovo, which you can now completely separate from Atlassian for $5 a month, they're going to see how people work outside of the Atlassian tools. You're going to see people working in Xero. You're going to see people working in Google Docs, and you're going to see what user behaviors are and the pattern about how much time do I spend where, and where do I put my information? What work do I create for others? I mean, this level of intelligence is the sort of thing that Apple, that Google, and that Microsoft have all had. Go back to Windows for Workgroups. That was them capturing the understanding of not just how a particular workstation worked, but how the organization functioned together. And imagine what Atlassian, as an organization that wants to manage the world's work, could do with that.
Atlassian's a narrative with a system of work, right? I think customers need to understand what it means for them and what are the options that they have now in the new platform. And I think strategic partners should be their allies. What do you think that needs to happen in order to create this level of relationship where partners help customers explore these possibilities and adapt the platform to their wall-to-wall system of work philosophy?
So specifically, how vendors can work with solution partners better?
How both vendors and solution partners can help customers adapt to this new philosophy of it's not Jira and Confluence, it's a system of work where every team can be aligned, where you can have the teamwork graph capturing every object, every possible piece of work, etc.
Yeah, well, so much of the problems people have come from not putting the customer first, the customer's needs first. My main advice for most marketing campaigns is like, what's in it for the customer? Why should they care? Don't talk about yourself, don't talk about why you're great. And it's the same with these partnerships. Like if you come from a perspective of what can I do to help the customer, what can I do to help the partner, you're much more likely to be like directly addressing those needs. And I think so many people are just trying to selfishly start these relationships with what's in it for them first, and they put the cart before the horse and it goes all backwards. So start around the customer and the customer's needs, and that conversation can be productive and useful and win-win for everyone.
Yeah, if I take the other angle, which is the partner needs that you were talking about, as a solution partner, you'll often have marketplace partners going, please sell my app. And you're sitting here going, it doesn't work like that. In their mind, do they think that the solution partner has got customers out there going, oh, can you go off and configure this for me? Oh, and I've got too much money over here. What else could I buy?
Can I buy some more?
Please help me spend more of my money. And apart from the end of financial year, I get that. That's not how it works. And it's this crisis of understanding as to, well, why would you? What is in it for you? And it's not the 20% discount that often comes as the transaction. From the app that I'm selling, where's the solution work that you can do with the customer to go off and educate and train them? I've talked multiple times about this idea of what I think might be the golden app of the future, the Script Runner, which everyone goes, hey, this is the perfect app that fits in 5 years' time. And it might look something like a White Room for legal, where you do document discovery, and you're putting documents into it, and then you're having a legal team that pour over review it, and it's all traced and accountable. You get then the report at the end, and then you seal it all up, and it gets archived, and it can then be unsealed with the appropriate access. That sounds like you're sticking a bunch of stuff in Confluence and Jira, and then you probably want a overall portal app, and no one even knows it's Jira or Confluence. At that point, you're selling to the customer need, which is, hey, all those Magic Circle law firms pay millions of dollars for this thing. we don't need to. We can come in with a better solution that also fits in, and might even be the first time this partner company uses Jira and Confluence. But now, thousands of law firms are my customer, and I'm in the same position as Atlassian, where I've built a solution that's the lowest common denominator, so it doesn't fit any one of them. And so I now need solution partners to come in and customize and extend it for each individual use case. I'm no longer saying, please sell my stuff. I'm saying, here, sell your time. And I think there's going to be a really interesting dynamic shift when people start doing verticals and hyper-focus very specifically like this. And there's a million different ways to agriculture, but pick an industry, academia, we keep going. And that's going to drive more work for the partner system to work together. And I'm going to be really interested to see what happens when people aren't trying to say, can you sell my shit? Go off and sell my thing, sell my thing, sell my... No. Here's how we can all gain from this, rather than, please stop being the gateway.
Yeah, I would probably share a personal story here. I'm pretty new to the ecosystem itself, and like a year and something ago, I came to Atlassian team Las Vegas, and I was like, it was almost unplanned. I got my visa 3 days before the plane, and I was thinking, like, I'm a marketing person, get into this conference. I was asking my boss, like, hey, how can I help? What should I do? He was like, it would be good for you to connect with our partners. We haven't really talked with them. I was like, okay, I should connect to partners. So I was like putting so many emails and messages and LinkedIns and approaching them like, hey, can you please meet with me? And I managed to get some meetings. And I was sitting in a room with one of the biggest solution partners in the ecosystem. There were 6 people there. And I was like, I was very nervous. And I prepared a slide deck for around 50 slides, I guess, within our app, and telling how cool it is with all the new features, with all the little customizations. And I said hello, and I started giving this presentation. And after 5 minutes, they stopped me and said, like, okay, we get a little bit about, but what is it in us for us? What in it for us? And I was like, we can give you a discount. And they were like, okay, good. And then we're like, they were turning to each other and were like, sorry, but what your app do? We are not like working quite with this. I'm mostly focused on the cloud migrations. I'm working on the ITSM, and they were like, I was like, we are an OKR app. We are for goal setting, objectives, key results for Jira. We are #1 marketplace app. I was so passionate, and they were like, oh, you work with OKRs? No, you work with OKRs? No. And there were 6 people in the room. No one have worked with this, strategy direction. And they were like, oh, maybe you should talk to Tina. Maybe Tina knows about it. All the rest people do not know it. And this was so funny. And this is, like what you were talking about. I was exactly like that marketplace partner who comes and was like, hey, can you please sell my app?
And this happens across the board as well. When you go to the customer, you contact the Jira admin, and the Jira admin is unlikely to be the person responsible for OKRs at the company, right? So it's just understanding your target audience and talking about what they care about and caring enough to learn that and get that message right. So, it sounds obvious, but it's just surprising how many people... It's fine for you to do it at your first teams. I know vendors that
I think I looked very funny doing that.
I know vendors that have been doing it for 10 years and didn't learn from that embarrassment.
Let's focus towards Forge. Forge is the present and the future of how to build apps and customizations in this ecosystem. What have you learned about Forge that you didn't know before the event, and what's your key takeaway?
So from the keynote you didn't attend, what did you learn?
I think everyone's scared that customers will start forging their own apps, and Atlassian are presenting that as the likely future. But in my experience, there's loads of customers that don't want to do that. And if you have a bunch of people vibe coding, you soon end up with mess and a lot of work for the solution partners to clean up. So I think there is still a space for well-made apps with good UX and caring. As Dan says, a single feature app is going to be made extinct pretty quickly. but there's loads of people that don't want to MacGyver their own solutions. And I think the technical people that come to a tech conference go, oh, brilliant, I can hack my own thing. That's not how 90% of people want to work. Most people aren't hackers, and they don't want to hack their own thing, and they don't want to deal with all the bugs and fallout.
So, Chris, do you think it's a dark plan, to make them create stuff and then, have like hundreds of hours of solution partners fixing that stuff?
I don't think so, no. Look, I think for the big enterprises, they are going to move some stuff in-house, and you are going to have, a lot of solutions made in-house. And the sales pitch from Atlassian is, move to cloud. You probably don't need so many apps. You can do a lot of stuff yourself. The first wave of people that do that and embrace that will be the jerry-riggers, the MacGyvers, and yeah, there's always the early adopters that love finding a hack with the new technology. The majority of the market where the most of the money is will quite appreciate a well-supported app that's taken years to make and has carefully considered features and UX and documentation and a training manual. So there'll be space for both. As Dan says, there won't be space for little feature apps. They will quickly go extinct.
I mean, if you want a soundbite, if you think you're going to vibe code away all the apps, you just vibe coded away Jira itself. Jira's not going anywhere. People aren't vibe coding away SaaS software. People are still buying Xero, and arguably that's tempo, right, in level of complexity. People aren't. I don't think that we're going to see in the next 2 or 3 years people vibe coding those things away, because it's the buy or build. And what they're saying is you're still owning the problem or you selling the problem. And I think people fundamentally still want to sell that problem in order for them to focus on what is their core business, rather than having to keep on top of the security requirements and having to come back to changing APIs and having to deal with, hell, the marketplace API, and ask any marketplace vendor how much effort they put into their RevOps side of the business in order just to stay current and deal with the changes that come through. The fire hose of changes that are happening from an 18,000 strong Atlassian and keeping up with the change. They're the problems that your app vendor solves, not putting the UI on the screen and storing it in some storage locker. Now, Atlassian are taking those things and making them easier. They are democratizing, making the glue for getting your in-house jerry-rigged HR system and getting that data linked up so that the tempo time logging also reports back into that, and the billing system that someone out the back built inside of Microsoft Dynamics. Yeah, of course, that's going to be much easier to build for Atlassian administrators to glue that together, and I think that's the target.
All right. I think we can call that a wrap. Thank you guys for the round table.
Thank you so much for hosting. Really interesting conversation.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
It's a pity there wasn't a table.
Thank you so much for hosting that. That was a lovely chat.
Yeah, let's
Thank
go
you.
and play some paddle now.